Welcome to Life Stories with me, Des Tong. Now, if you were watching last week, you will know that my guest is the legend, Jasper Carrott.
Sounds really weird.
But it's totally true.
Well, thank you.
So a quick resume. We were actually talking when the show finished about the detectives.
Yes.
But in particular, one of the writers, Stephen Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And that developed, didn't it? That relationship developed.
Yes.
Into possibly the biggest game show in the world.
It did. Steve and his partner Mike wrote for me for about 7 years, possibly 8. And I was with a company called Celador that I'd started in 1981 with another guy. And it had grown and we were doing reasonably well, nothing sensational. And then Steve and Mike had a friend at London Capital Radio who had this idea for a game show called Cash Mountain. And the idea was that the Cash Mountain, the prize money, would be backed by people phoning in, trying to get on the show with some questions, and they would pay money, and then that money would then go to the prize money. And Cash Mountain eventually turned into Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Right. And Mike and Steve and this other guy, who was David Briggs, who was also one of the detectives, of course, came up with this idea. And my company, Celador, took it on. And it was basically the $64,000 question, but with whistles and bells, you know? And it took us 3 years to get onto television because everybody said the same thing. Game shows, dead in the water. Yeah. Dead and gone, don't come to us with game shows. But then, London Weekend, beg your pardon, independent television, ITV, took it on. There was lots of circumstances which I haven't got time to go into. But we didn't know that they'd wanted the show until they were at Montreux doing the autumn schedules for ITV. And the guy said, Richard Lidham, he said, we've got this brand new game show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And we didn't know it was called that. We didn't. We hadn't even done an agreement. Yeah. You know, and Paul Smith, my managing director, phoned up and said, what's happening? You know, we haven't done an agreement. And Paul Lidham said, well, there's not going to be a problem, is there? Well, no. So we took it on. And it was obviously, I think it was a half-hour show, or maybe 40 minutes. And David Lidham, to his credit, realized the potential and did something that no one had ever done before. He cleared the scheduling from 8 o'clock till 8:30 or 9, I can't remember which. He just cleared everything off, you know, all the standard programs, so that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was going to be on 10 consecutive nights. Never been done before. And it was sensational.
Because it relaunched Chris Tarrant, didn't it? Well, he'd been on radio, but TV-wise...
Yeah. I don't know about relaunched, because they offered me the Cash Mountain, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And because, you know, my arrogant self, I used to do a game show. I can't possibly do a game show. And luckily, I turned it down because Chris Tarrant took on, and Chris was brilliant. I mean, it's all over the world, but he's by far the best presenter of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, wherever you are. And he was very important to the success of the show. But it was incredibly successful, and not just here, of course. In America, Germany, 107 different countries. Yeah. The world's most successful game show. Yeah. And Steve Knight was one of the creators.
But you did do a game show.
I did. Golden Balls.
Golden Balls.
Golden Balls came along in about 2008, something like that. And they asked me to do the pilot, you see. And I won't go into the reasons that I did it, but I wanted to do it for not just, I had no intention of doing the series or doing the host. And when I'd finished doing it, they'd liked the way I'd presented it, and I'd given it a format that they hadn't written, like a very informal chat thing. And they said, would I do the comparing for Golden Balls? And of course, I was on my high horse. I don't do game shows. I'm a raconteur. And then, of course, my agent said, well, that's how much they're going to pay you. And I remember going, is this in lira? He went, no, pounds. And so it was my Achilles heel, you see. So I said I'd do it. And I had a great time, 3 years, nearly 300 shows. And it ran out of steam because, ITV ran out of money. It was a very expensive game show to make. They could only do 8 a week because it was so long and complicated.
Yeah.
And when you look at something like Pointless, I don't know, they probably make 4 or 5 a day.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But that was Golden Balls, and I learned so much, Des, from that. Always thought, if I was on a jury, I'd know whether he was guilty as soon as he walked in the court. Yes, I would know. Arrogance again, you see.
Yeah.
But after a couple of shows, I tell you, I couldn't tell you who was telling the truth, who was lying through the teeth. I had no idea. People are devious, Des. Devious.
Let's go on to Birmingham City.
Ta-da!
Da-da-da. I mean, you said that you started off, you used to go 1 week to Villa, 1 week to the Blues.
That's right.
But then there was a defining moment.
There was, yes. I used to go 1 week to Villa, 1 week to Birmingham, occasionally the Albion. But then Birmingham had this home game, and we beat Liverpool 9-1. And I thought, wow, this is the team for me. And we went on to win the second division. We went up into the first division. We finished 6th. We got to the FA Cup final, though we lost against Man City. And I thought, this is the team for me. And then we won sod all until 2008, I think, or 11, when we won the League Cup.
Right.
And in between those times, 1955 to 2011, was mainly misery, but wonderful camaraderie, great moments, as all football fans are. And I became a director, which was a mistake, really. I should never have got involved. Once I was in there, I realised I'd made a big mistake. And eventually, I had 2.5, 3 years, and I stepped down. I won't go into the circumstances. But football has been a major part of my life, and of course I've met fantastic people.
I was going to say, because Trevor Francis is a big friend.
Very close friend, yeah. We were on holiday a couple of weeks ago, and when he was manager, I got very much involved with him and the team because of the circumstances. And again, that's a bit of a mistake, because you start to realise that when you're involved with a team and in players and management, you see everything from a different angle. You can't see it from an outsider. You see it from an insider. So when you want someone dropped from the outside, when you're on the inside, you don't, because you know the influence that he has on the team. Yeah. Oh, your head gets scratched. So, anyway, when Trevor left, I sort of stood back. But football has been a major part of my life, and I played it for years. And it was great, because I used to play on all those Birmingham pitches at Billesley Common and down at Sheldon. And
didn't ask you this, but wasn't that football associated where the name came from, Jasper? Didn't I read somewhere?
No, Jasper Carrott. Jasper came from playing football, but when I was 9 years old at Acox Green Rec, when you're playing with your mates from school and stuff. And someone just called me Jasper for some unknown reason, and it stuck like wildfire. Yeah. Everybody started calling me Jasper. Even the masters at school stopped calling me Bobby and started calling me Jasper. And when I went to Moseley, everybody called me Jasper, because
they were introduced to you as
yes, exactly. All the friends from Acox Green. And then when I was about 16, 17, I was playing with Bev. We were playing pitch and putt at Swanshurst Park. And a bloke came over, and Bev said, "Oh, hello, Brian, whatever your name is." He went, "No," and Bev said, "Oh, this is Jasper." And the bloke said, "Jasper who?" And no one had ever asked me that. And I just said, "Carrot." And Bev thought it was hysterical. So then he started telling everybody, "It's Jasper Carrott," you see. So Jasper Carrott became my real name. Yeah. And in fact, my wife went out with me for nearly 6 months before she realised that Jasper was not my real name. It was only when my mum went, "Bobby, do you want a cup of tea?" And my wife went, "Who's Bobby?" I went, "Well, it's me." So when I started in the business, Jasper Carrott, I couldn't call myself Robert Davies or Bobby Davies, because nobody knew who I was. Yeah. So it was Jasper Carrott. And like good or bad, you remember it.
Absolutely.
You do. Yeah. And I'm sure it's been, helpful to the career, because if you're good, people remember you. Yeah. as I say. But if you're bad, fortunately, more good than bad.
We're going to come up to a break.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I'm going to ask you about your charity work, because I know it's very important to you.
Yes.
And also your OBE.
Old Birmingham entertainer.
Yes.
Other buggers' efforts.
When you met the
Queen.
Her Madge.
Her Madge.
Yeah.
Liz.
Okay, so we're going to take a break there. Stay with us, and we'll be back with Jasper Carrott. Welcome back to Life Stories with me, Des Tong, and my guest, Jasper Carrott. So we were just talking about the OBE.
Yes. Order of the British Empire. It was given to me for my charitable works, not for comedy. Charity has been a very important part of my life, and I do a lot. And people think, oh, isn't he wonderful? Not really, because charity is so enjoyable, Des. I mean, you've done a fair bit of it. You meet the most amazing people who do really unselfish acts for people who are, less well off than us. And I've met brilliant people. My main charity work is with children, or disadvantaged children. I'm patron of Sunfield Home, which is in Clent, and it's a residential home for people, for kids with learning difficulties up to about 19. And I just, it keeps my feet on the ground, because I start to realise all the time when I'm doing charity how fortunate I am. I have all my senses, I have my mobility, I have the ability to raise money. And it's very, very satisfying. And so I did it because, not really because it's selfish, but it is, because it's so enjoyable. And when I turn up and I present a coach, for disabled kids, and there's hundreds of people there, and they all cheer and clap, and you feel great. But it's a fraud, really, because I'm just handing the thing over. All the hard work has been done by all the people that are there to see me do it. So it's a bit of a fraud. But I do have, and still do, terrific times.
Talking about keeping your feet on the ground and mobility, tell me about the Knoll Fun Run.
Oh, that's painful. Well, of course, I live in the area, and the Lions Club had been doing sort of fun runs, but they wanted some profile, and I'd done something the year before. But I thought, well, I'll throw myself into it, and I had this idea: beat the carrot. And the idea was that we started off, there was and if you beat me, I would donate, I think it was £10 to charity. So however it was, many people beat me, I would put £10 to charity. Also, if you beat your time from last year, there would be another £10,
Right.
And of course, I'm no slouch, I can hobble with the best of them. So I had this T-shirt made with a target on the back, and the publicity just went bananas. They used to have a couple of hundred people. Well, there's about 3,000 or 4,000 people. I tell you, when that gun went off, I never ran so fast in all my life. There's hammering around the streets of Knoll. But it was, I joke really, but the bank manager wasn't very happy. But it did the trick. It did the trick. We raised a lot of money, and then I stepped down, but that gave it the impetus, and it still goes on today, and it's very successful and raises a lot of money. You
were the second person to get a star on Broad Street.
Yes.
And then you are now the chair of the committee that awards the stars.
That's correct, yes. They asked me to get involved because I think they wanted somebody that had the contacts within the business. And of course, it's not a public financed organisation. It comes from the businesses in Broad Street. So I've tried to raise the profile a bit and to get some good publicity when we do it. And it's been very successful. We did Jeff Lynne and we did Trevor Francis. We did Ian Livingstone from Dad's Army.
Yeah.
No, very few.
Ian Lavender.
Ian Lavender. Ian Lavender. Who did I say?
Livingston. I presume.
I do the jokes. Yeah, Ian Lavender. And then we did Dennis Amos and Anne Jones and Hayden Jones. And we've got Steel Pulse coming up.
Right.
So, and we've really raised the profile. So now, the Walker Stars in Birmingham is getting nationally known. And Steel Pulse, we've sort of given it to them in a way, because the one show will be featuring that, I think, in a couple of weeks' time.
Right.
But they get it officially in September.
Right.
It's a real battle sometimes. Several times people don't want to have a star. I won't mention any names, but it's very difficult to try and give a star to these people, because I don't know why. They're reluctant, or they're shy, or maybe they don't feel it's big enough for them. I know, but that's the idea, is to get it big enough so that people don't turn it down.
All right. A little bit about your family. I remember actually I was flying to the States, and Lucy, your daughter, was on the same flight, and it was just after she'd finished The Office, and I think she was going out to do some auditions and whatever. She's doing really well now. Yes,
she lives in LA, and as you know, The Office won 2 Golden Globes in Hollywood, so her profile was reasonable. And then she went on and she did lots of different things, which have been very successful. And she's just finished the Wonder Woman film, which comes out next year.
Right.
And she's Wonder Woman's best friend.
Right.
There you go. And she does NCIS LA. And literally 2 weeks ago, it was fantastic, really, because a couple of years ago, she made a pilot called The Lamp Family. It hadn't got much success. I mean, pilots in LA.
Yeah.
But there was a big exhibition about a month ago in LA about pilots. And someone had said to Lucy, put your pilot in. And she didn't think too much about it. But they said, no, come on. Her agent said, it's really good. And so, all right. So she just sort of re-edited a bit, put it in, and it won. It won Best Pilot of this thing. So she's absolutely over the moon. And she's having a meeting in about 10 days' time to talk to 2 companies who are very, very interested in putting it on the network. So she's up and running.
Fantastic.
And, it's great. It's great.
And you having decided you were going to wind down,
suddenly,
stand up and rock.
Yep.
You're touring the country.
Yep. Where did that come from? Well, the last time I toured, really, was 98. And I sort of realised I'd lost that buzz from stand-up. And so I thought, well, I'll give it a 12-month rest, an 18-month rest. And that lasted 13 years. And obviously, I did stuff in between. I did Golden Balls and whatever, and I did a series of shows in Birmingham. But I'd really lost interest in stand-up. And then a couple of years ago, Bev, with the Bevan Band, he said, let's do some shows together, because we've been friends for 60 years and had never really worked together. So we went out on tour with Made in Brum, which was very successful, except in Mansfield and Buxton, because, who would come and see a show called Made in Brum in Buxton? I mean, if you saw Made in Buxton in Brum, you wouldn't go.
No.
So we realised we'd made a mistake. So then we decided that the shows were very successful. So then we called it Stand Up and Rock. And we did that. We've done that for 2 years, and it's been really it's fantastic. Really, when I'm saying fantastic, it's great, because I'm really back in love with stand-up, and it was just a real joy to get that buzz back again. And because we've been working the smaller theatres,
Yeah, I saw that. You decided you weren't going to do too big a theatre.
Yeah, well, when you do the 5,000 seaters, I mean, all well and good, but people are paying 25, 30 quid. To see you on television, because all they're doing is they're watching the screens either side, because you're an ant,
Yeah.
So this is back to the basics, and you'll appreciate this, because I'm back to sort of 500, 600, 700 people, maybe 1,000, and it's eyeball to eyeball, And as we did it, we realised we'd touched a market that is not catered for, because yes, they're a mature market. And in fact, and we get these fantastic standing ovations every night. And the joke is, it would be 100% standing ovations every night if 100% of the audience could stand. But it's that mature audience, and they're not catered for, Des. And we do all the music, 60s, 70s, 80s. And then I do the humour, the comedy. And of course, there's no expletives. And that's what people love. you know, they're not 25 and they want it effing and blinding and
No.
orifices and what goes in and what comes out. They want something a bit responsible.
Yeah.
And so we've hit this market, and they're really appreciative. And so I'm not doing it at the moment because I've got to write all new material. But we start back next year with stand-up and rock. But I'm also doing shows with Alistair McGowan,
Yeah.
you know, the impressionist.
Yeah.
We got together about 18 months ago at Henley Festival. I didn't really know him, and they put us together on a show. So he did half an hour, and I did half an hour. And I was backstage listening, and I mean, he is very funny. I'd forgotten how good he was. And the audience were going bananas. I'm thinking, I've got to follow this. And I mean, he came off, and the crowd were going bananas. And I walked on, he introduced, I walked on, and I said, Alistair, I said warm them up, not boil the bastards. And then I was all right.
We could talk all night here.
You could.
It's been absolutely incredible. I do appreciate your time coming in.
Absolute pleasure.
And I wish you all the luck with future
Thank you.
tours.
And I
everything.
wish you and Big Centre TV all good wishes. And,
Thank you.
You know, we need it. We need
do.
it to be successful.
Thank you. That was amazing. My sincere thanks to Jasper Carrott. Tune in again for my next guest on Life Stories.